We all are a part of a jigsaw puzzle, and when we live our life's purpose, we're going to fill that small missing piece in other people's jigsaw puzzle. What is the purpose of life?
We are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings in a human journey.
Everybody out there who's trained with you or who knows you personally know what an amazing trainer and a coach you are. Is there a problem with the education system as such, or is there a problem with our education in itself?
Only 0.6% of India are teachers.
Oh my God. Okay.
Now, if we can make even 1% of India teach the way we teach, that's going to shift the entire game in this country, is what I feel.
What do you think is the responsibility of a family when it comes to a child?
When you scar their self-image, they are now fighting from within to show that they are worthy. If we can just allow our kids to be themselves, they don't have to wait for 40 years.
Let's strip away everything. You being the digital coach, you being the parent, you being the entrepreneur and everything. Who are you on the inside?
I'm just
We just finished recording an amazing podcast with Siddharth Rajsekar. What we thought would be a podcast around like coaching industry, around entrepreneurship, around business turned out to be an amazing podcast that helps you understand who you truly are in life. The depth that this man has and the kind of spiritual authenticity that this man has, I've always known bits and pieces of that over the last 10 years of knowing him. But today when we started having conversations on much more deeper level, it's amazing. I really, really want all of you to watch this podcast till the end. Not because I want you to finish this podcast because of the numbers, none of it. Simply because just by watching this podcast and understanding how powerful you truly are, life is going to change. And that is exactly what I wish for each one of you. Make sure to watch the podcast fully, and I'll see you in the next one. Sids, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. From the time that this inception of the idea of podcast was there at the back of my mind, I've always told you once we start, I would really like to have you here. Simply because of the kind of things that I've learned from you, not from just the perspective of being a trainer or a coach, but from the perspective of being an amazing human. Because everybody out there who's trained with you or who knows you personally know what an amazing trainer and a coach you are. But only when people get to know you personally, people know what an amazing human you are. I've known you since 2015, and there are two things that stand out for me. The first one is how different you were as a person back then when it came to mindset and how different you are. But the second thing is, irrespective of the growth, irrespective of the fame, the money and everything, you still remain so grounded with respect to everything in your life. So one description I give to people who don't know you is, if you meet Sids, you will see how he treats an akka who gives water and how he treats the CEO of a company is just the same. How do you do that?
First of all, thanks for inviting me. And every time we have conversations, it goes very deep.
Yes.
So for me, it was no two thoughts about being on this podcast, because I know this conversation is going to last.
Yes.
And it's going to inspire a lot of people. And even before I started, I just set the intention that whoever is watching this, I hope this conversation can inspire them to lead and teach and inspire others.
Yeah.
So I started with that. But to answer your question, I think it goes back to my childhood, the way I was brought up. I mean, I'm modeling my parents. I'm modeling my grandpa. I'm modeling my masters, my mentors. So I have to just say I've been blessed to be having the right role models who came into my life, who demonstrate this behavior. So starting with my grandpa, you had a big business, joint family, and he would treat everybody with respect. In fact, there is a term in our Vedic scripture. It's called Ajata Shatru, a person whose enemy is not even born.
Wow.
Okay. And that was a quality of my grandfather. There was no one that he had as an enemy, because no one could call him as an enemy, because that's the way he respected people.
Wow. Okay.
And the same with my dad, my mom. I mean, in spite of going through different challenges in family, relationships, many things. But I've seen that quality in my father also. Like even when things were not going the right direction, people probably stabbed him at different points. He never held any grudge. He went back and he kept the relationship going. And over the years, things turned back. So if you see this in me, I have to attribute it back to my role models, my grandpa, my dad, my spiritual master, Suren, Blair. Blessed. That's it.
This is just amazing. So, how were you in your teens or early 20s? Were you the person that you are right now, or were you a different
I'm
person?
still in my 20s, by the way. Yeah. I was a rebel kid, rebel kid, the silent mischief guy.
Right.
I've been a rebel in situations where it was not aligned with my values, or where it was where people were trying to force things down upon me. But in environments where I was allowed to be myself, I just blossomed. I just bloomed in those places. So that's why now, with what I'm doing, and I'm a father of 3 boys now. So I'm very mindful of that. So I really want to give an environment where people can bloom, and I feel I have all the right to talk about teaching education because I've been through that journey of what I went through. But I would not change the story. I had some great teachers in school. I had amazing teachers in college. And right through my 20s, I was always pushing the boundaries. Like when you say, always thinking about what's up next. Like even in the music industry, you may or may not know this. I used to be a DJ before.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so even before the EDM scene got really big in India, we were like 3 of us where we actually started the scene in Chennai. So I mean, there were many moments like this that I'll never forget. Our home was like a party house, and I was fully into music and multiple things. So yeah, that's my childhood. I feel even now I've never lost that spark. I'm always pushing the boundaries. My values have been the same. My habits have changed over the years.
How?
So when I talk about values, my core values are like creativity, freedom, and now with the family growing, it's family. I want to spend more time with the kids and be there for them. And it has always been family even before. Like even though I was with a bunch of friends, we were very thick. I did not have too many friends, but we were very close, like the 5-6 of us during my college days. So, but of course the environment was different, even though I was into music, was into all kinds of habits and all of that stuff. But again, thanks to the spiritual grounding in my childhood days, like I'm saying, growing up in 10-12 years, though I went through a like 3-4 year of exploring myself, abusing myself with all kinds of habits, I was able to quickly bounce back. One day I decided and I stopped smoking. One day I decided I stopped drinking. One day I decided I was doing drugs and stuff. I stopped all of that because that came with the music industry. But I guess all of that came with the samskars instilled by my parents as a child. So the values of creativity and freedom always has been there, but the habits changed over time by me just going through that journey.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you could look back at your 20s, what do you think are the top 3 mistakes that you did in your 20s?
There's no mistakes. I love myself. Okay. That way. Everything is, I would say what I learned from the 20s is I would not change anything, because if I had not gone through those experiences, I would not have the openness or a depth of understanding of what I'm doing right now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so true.
So there are no mistakes. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, contrary to the popular belief that people think only extroverts make it really big in businesses. But now research says that most of the successful entrepreneurs, 63% of them are introverts.
Yeah.
So tell me, how does it feel to be an introvert?
For me, it's a switch. It's like, of course, core. How do you define who's an introvert and extrovert? There's a definition for that.
Right.
So it's where do you get your energy?
Exactly.
So for me, when I'm on my own, I get my energy.
Okay.
So the definition of an extrovert is they get a lot of energy when they're with people.
People, correct.
And then the definition of an introvert is someone who gets energy when they're secluded. So for me, it's a combination of both now. So when I do my trainings, I get energy from my community. When I have to get into creative mode, I just need to be in my den, just doing my own thinking. And I also do, in a year, I just cut myself off for 25 days or 20 days.
Exactly. So that was my next question. So when you cut yourself off from the society, you're on your own, doing the things that you want to do. You're in that creative space, in that flow state, in the zone. So first, why do you do that? And second, how has it benefited you, your mindset, and your business?
So I'll answer this question in few layers. Okay. So the first layer is just like how you give your car for a service. Every 3 months, every 6 months, to change the oil, change the battery, change all of that stuff. I felt I need to do that for my body first.
Okay.
So the first layer is I break myself off. I do a panchakarma, which is either 7, 14 or 21 day. I normally do a 14 or 21 just to take care of my body, because the body is the instrument for me to do the work that I do. So that's the first level. Now the second level is by me cutting myself off and going through that journey is especially a treatment like a panchakarma. It makes it's a lot of massages that you got to do, and usually they go on for 60 minutes, 90 minutes and stuff. So you are literally closing your eyes for 90 minutes and every day. Okay, and you're doing it for like 14 days, 50 days. 14, 21 days.
21 days.
So what I use this time is I set an intention before I go into any massage. Okay, so now they're working on my body, they are doing all whatever they have to do, but I'm creating inside my head.
Wow.
Okay.
This is such a fresh perspective. Okay.
Yeah. So for example, now if I have to do an event like an FBR, which you are a part of. So I go into the massage on that day. Okay, today, in the next 90 minutes, I want to visualize the entire thing from start to finish. How people are going to enter, what are they going to feel, what's going to happen, the minute to minute. Then as soon as I finish that and come out, it's still in my head. I come and I start writing it down. So I use this time not only for the body, but also for me to visualize.
Wow. Okay.
And if you're doing it like for a 14-day continuous thing, and of course there are some days where I go blank and I go really into that deep state and like just sleep state. It's not active mind in some of those days. But so the second layer of why I take a break is for me to create.
Okay.
Because what I've observed is the best work happens outside work.
That's
when you do all this thinking and then the execution happens so fast.
Yes.
And then there's a third layer, which is the spiritual layer to it, which is we do the pranayams. We have even the asanas that happen in the evening. So in the first part of the day, usually it's a lot of breathing exercises. So, all the different pranayams that happen, and we normally end with the yoga nidra, where you're really going into that deep state. So that also, I think it helps me cleanse all the energies, because I'm so much in exposing myself online. There's a lot of energy exchange that happen. And when I do this, just like how my body is going through a detox, it's also an energy detox, what I feel happening. And since it's panchakarma, it is an age-old traditional Ayurvedic process. It's there's a science behind everything, even the food that they give you, and they also tell you not to speak to too many people, just be in your own space and just be slow with everything. So that also helps me. So spiritual connection, I spend a lot of time reading also, maybe reading a scripture or whatever interests me at that point, or listening to podcasts. That they allow me to also go through technology. It's not that I'm completely cut off from technology, but I'm not doing work. I'm not in meetings. I'm not doing webinars. So when I come back after those 14, 15 or 20 days that I do, I just know exactly what I need to do for the next year. So if you ask me, my productivity secret is this.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is for the whole year planning.
I don't think a lot of people actually know this about you, right? Like people think you're sitting there and creating, but then the actual work happens when you're not working.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So now, especially when you're doing this 21 days, because you are into the digital coaching business and you have a 30,000 member community, do you have this feeling ever of I'm missing out on something, the fear of missing out on something, just because you're not connected to people?
See, the fear of missing out normally comes when you're comparing yourself with someone. And honestly, I don't even look at my so-called competitors, because I don't think about anyone as competition.
Yes.
But I also have the hunger to look at what's happening in the world. So I'm clued into a few podcasts. I have a few newsletters that I'm subscribed to. I'm always in tune, even on YouTube and other places, on what was the latest information that's coming in. And I'm always thinking from a perspective, how can I use that if it's going to add value to my community or not? So there is no FOMO as such, but there is a drive that I want to push the boundaries.
So now the drive that you have, that you want to push boundaries. So this is something I was listening to a podcast recently where I heard this. They speak about how every desire starts from a void, but for some people, it stays in the void even after fulfilling that desire. But for some people, it outgrows the void and they start to understand that desire is coming from a space of their purpose, right? According to you, I mean, if we could forget the coaching, if we could forget everything that is happening around us, what is the purpose of life?
So when I go back to Earl Nightingale, success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So each one have their own purposes. And like I was talking about before we started the concept of genius, each one of us have our own, what we call, like even in our scripture, there's a word called swabhava, or something that is natural to you, that you're born with. Okay, so when I look at myself, the pattern right from school days to college days it's been creating. It's always about creating something new. I don't feel complete when I'm not creating. I'm always in that zone of creation.
Okay. So when you're creating something, can you help us understand what stages that you go through in the process of creating something?
So the first stage is gathering data. Okay, so I'll break it down. Okay. So when you gather a lot of data, like for me, I'm looking at different things from different places. The next stage, data becomes into knowledge. So now data that is not decoded or where you don't understand, it is still data.
Correct.
But once you assimilate it, then it becomes knowledge.
Correct.
Then when you apply that knowledge, it becomes into wisdom.
Correct.
Okay. And then when you are embodying the wisdom, that's when you gain insight.
Yes.
And then as you're applying the knowledge, like right now, whatever I'm sharing with you is based on application of knowledge, which is I'm sharing this with you as insights.
Correct.
Okay. Now, as you are going or continuing on this journey, you will have an ability to have foresight.
Okay.
So there's a connection between insight and foresight.
Okay.
So insight is what you have gained through application of knowledge, and foresight is as you're applying knowledge, you're able to see where things are going. So my creative process is these stages. So I'm always learning. I'm always trying to innovate or try to do something new, and through that also I'm learning, gaining insights, and this whole cycle of data to knowledge to application to insight to foresight is how I would like to define my creativity in this way. Okay.
I've really not heard anybody speak about creation or creativity like this. I just love this. So recently I heard someone say this and it was very beautiful. We all talk about the abundant mindset. And generally when we talk about the abundant mindset, it always boils down to the money mindset.
Yes.
So this person was talking about abundant mindset where this person said, for example, let's say you and I are having a conversation.
Yeah.
Both of our phones are away. We're not even thinking of the thought that, oh, what if somebody calls me? What if somebody is like reaching out to me and all of that? We're just in this moment having a great time having this conversation. Yes. This is also an abundant mindset because you so strongly believe or you so strongly know whatever is supposed to reach you will reach you at the right time. Yeah. So you're not operating from a space of this anxiety.
True.
This just gave me such an insight that abundance in mindset is so much freedom. When you know for a fact that everything in your life is working out the way it is supposed to work out, and you are at the right place at every single point in time for the best possibility of the evolution of your soul, then there is no need to just be in that space of desperation, right? So I think this entire entrepreneurial journey, what most people don't realize, is spiritual in its own way.
Yeah.
Because the way I figured myself out in the last 2 years, I don't think 5 years of spiritual practices would have gotten me to this point, just trying to understand myself on much deeper levels.
Yeah. Yes.
So having said that, you started digital coaching in 2018, even before it was a big thing, right? So 2020, after COVID came in, everybody went digital, but you were doing it even before that. But before that, you've encountered few failures also. How did you have the courage to believe in yourself once again, though you could not see any tangible results immediately?
So I'll answer that question by going back to what you just said, abundance mindset, and opposite of that, a scarcity mindset. So the way I look at it is our life is like a stage that has been set by our creator for us to learn different lessons. Okay. And through the lessons, we either grow through it or we need to come back to learn that lesson.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, the only difference is how are you building your awareness, and how are you applying what you're learning through this journey. Okay. So now coming to whatever you ask me, my failures and everything else, like I say, I would never go back to change anything, because that was a part of the curriculum that I had to go through to have this current awareness. And I may go through different lessons at this stage for the next level of awareness for doing the work that I'm supposed to do. So back to that concept of swabhava, like all of us have innate, inborn talents, abilities that we are given at the time of our being. And then the first thing where this programming normally it starts is in the education system, right from kindergarten, right from you getting the application to join the right school, where you have to demonstrate your worthiness. From there, the game actually starts.
Right.
And then when you get into school as kids, you're compared with each other. So the peer pressure starts right from there all the way up to college, based on your grades, and then continues into corporate. So I feel the system that we have right now is designed to keep people trapped.
Okay.
To understanding what their real curriculum is.
Okay.
Or it's more like a smoke screen. So even in your journey, you had to go through something, but then the last few months or years has been magical, because now you just opened yourself up to this new world.
Yes.
Of possibilities. And through your own application, data gathering, knowledge, insight, and now you're gaining some foresights in your own space, and that's where the gold zone is, as Blair says.
Yeah.
So to answer your question on failure, so for me, the turning or the tipping points in my journey, let's say failing my 12th grade was one of those turning points. If I had not failed that, then I would not have done sound engineering. Now, if I had not done sound engineering, I would not have gone to Dubai and experienced the media world over there. If I had not gone there, I would not have found my wife. If I had not gone there, I would not have come back and really spent more quality time with my family and actually built a team in the mobile space. If I had not done that, I would not have, of course, then I lost my job. So that was another point. If I had not lost my job, I would not gone into entrepreneurship. And then if I had not started an agency and gone through that, it was an amazing journey I had. If I had not gone through that I went through a burnout over there, I would not have built the freedom business model.
Right.
So everything adds up.
It all had to happen the way it happened for you to be at this point.
At this stage, yeah. So back to the essence of this, I want to say is that if we can just allow our kids to be themselves, they don't have to wait for 40 years.
Wow. That's amazing. And yeah, I want to ask you about this also, like Rishabh. I mean, when it comes to social media, I would have spoken in a lot of places up until very recently that how social media is affecting our mindset, how it is affecting the younger generation. But when I actually sit down and think about things, right? Recently, I met Harvey's son, who's 10 years old.
Yeah.
I've seen Rishabh. I've interacted with him. Both of them are around 10 to 12 years old. They are genius. The way they are able to use AI, the way they're able to use social media to understand how the world operates, how human beings operate, and intellect and mindset. When I was having a conversation with a 10-year-old, he was like, no, I'd like to become like Elon Musk or Sam Altman. I'm thinking about when I was 10 years old, zero awareness, just wanted to like get first rank in the exams and cry if I did not get first rank. So social media and all of this tech and AI is also working in their favor.
Yes.
So when you take a look at this, right? So you're this very unique blend of somebody who's so good in tech and somebody who's very, very spiritually grounded also. I've really not come across somebody like you. So how would you see this for the future generation, for our children's generation?
So it starts with parenting mindset and also society's, pressures of society. So if you think about where it all roots to is security and old paradigms. Okay, so I'm just looking at my parents. Even though my grandpa was an entrepreneur who had built a successful company, when my dad was bringing me up, he said, go to school, get a job, because that was kind of the story of security,
right?
Of how to be in a more secure world. So the first place where kids are influenced is right from the insecurities of the parents.
Wow. Okay. Correct.
And this is also deeply rooted in the parents who have their parents or may not have the parents on trying to fulfill their desires.
That's correct. Yes.
Or in other words, now if I'm a parent and if I was not able to fulfill the desires of my parents, I will enforce that into my next generation.
That's correct. Yeah.
And the pattern repeats. So now the next generation is not living for themselves, they're living for the previous generation, just like how this generation living for the previous generation. So there's a kind of a loop that's happening over there. So the way I look at it is the first place to really where we need to work on is give the confidence to parents or make them aware that there are other ways to bring up kids.
Why do you think parents are scared to explore this idea?
Same, no, just like in school we have peer pressure. Everybody same. It now at a parental level there's peer pressure. You go to a party, like, what are you doing? What's your, and if you don't say the right thing, they're like, there's always a status game that's being played.
And I think parents put their sense of self-worth on how much the child is accomplishing in their life.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of pressure on the children also.
Pressure on the children. And today, so now coming back to the kids of today, you don't need to teach them anything. They already know much more than the parent. Like, I'm seeing like Rishabh and many of the kids in this generation, they're on shorts, they're on Insta, they're on all of the short form content. They are learning so much.
Yes.
Okay. As a parent, we may think that, they are watching something random. But I can tell you that the next generation, that they're able to connect the dots much, much faster than us. Like, on different situations. So back to where I see this is it's only after Vani and I, we came into the personal development world where we understood there are other ways to bring up our kids.
Okay.
Which in normal sense, people outside, they don't have a clue about the personal development world.
Correct, yes.
And it's all just, previous generation did this is what we're supposed to do. So there's a kind of a template that is very hard to break, which is what I'm trying to break now by giving that exposure that yes, every child is unique, every child is a genius, every kid has the ability to do whatever they want. Just don't get in their way. Okay, just hold the space for them and allow them to do that. And it was difficult even for Vani because she comes from a family of all chartered accountants, and so chartered accountant, it's a big deal,
it's a big deal. Yeah.
So even from her family's side, even the fact that she got married to me, who's a college dropout, and there were a lot of question marks over there.
For them,
Are you sure you want to get married to this guy? But today I love her family, and I can see how after they saw my journey, many of them, especially in the last maybe 4-5 years, their belief that they don't need to put their kids in the same flow, it has changed because of one example in the family.
That's amazing.
So we need to create more examples like this.
So when you decided to take Rishabh out of the conventional schooling system, how difficult was it for you and Vani?
It wasn't, and it's not that he's out of the conventional schooling. He's going unconventional, but when I say he does go to school, there are 40-50 kids over there. It's a different system over there. I'm glad that we were able to find a school like that in Chennai, and they're called the Unschooling Project, and they work on helping kids identify what they're good at, and they don't have curriculums, they have continuums. So every 3 months, the child can decide what they want. They get facilitators. So what I was looking at is the yearn to learn. Is Rishabh as a child, is he loving what he's learning? And is he getting into a space where while he's learning, he's lost in that world? And I could see that environment facilitating that beautifully. Like Saturday, Sunday, he says, I'm feeling bored at home, I want to go back. Wow. Okay, so which is normally the opposite in a CBSE, ICSE school. Like, yay, holiday, summer holidays. Yeah, summer holidays here, they're so bored. They say, I want to go and do some activity. So for us to make the decision was very fast because of the concept of we went for the open day for that school. And when they were giving the model and everything else, when that founder of the school said, we do goal to goal, and she said that, I said, I'm sold. Okay. Because if a kid can set their own goals and they achieve that goal and they set the next goal, that's all they need to know.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
I was sold.
That's great. But it brings me to another question, right? So for example, now I want to really understand, is there a problem with our education or is there a problem with our education system?
Yeah.
The reason why I want to ask you this question is, for example, let's say I put my child in a schooling system like this. My child probably does not get exposed to all these complex concepts of differentiation, calculus and all of that.
Yes.
But now when I look back at my schooling, Now, when I sit down and watch all of these videos on quantum science, quantum physics, and all of that, it is just so fascinating that I think if I had known all of this back in school, I would have probably pursued that and gone ahead to become a scientist, because
Yes.
that my heart still lies there for some reason.
Yeah.
It still lies there. So, is there a problem with the education system as such, or is there a problem with our education in itself?
So our mentor Blair, he says, it's not about what you teach, it's the way you teach it.
Correct. Yeah.
And more importantly, who you are as a person. So when you look at the education system, it was designed to create workers. Correct. It was designed, and it did its job in the industrial era, last 100, 200 years. But now we are moving into a world where things are much faster. Okay. So I would not say it's a problem, it is a time for an evolution. It's time for the shift, and this is the moment in history. When you look at I'm glad that I was born at a time where there were no mobile phones. Okay, and we started
Yes,
there in the 80s, 90s, and we saw the world without tech, and we saw the world get into tech. And now we are seeing AI, and it's going on to a totally different spin. And the next 18 months is like going to be crazy because of agents, and there are so many other things coming. So I think we are the only generation, especially if you're a millennial, where we are blessed to have seen the curve of humanity, which I'm sure even our great-grandparents would not have seen so many changes. Okay?
Yes.
So back to the point that our great-grandparents, or what the whole system was designed then. And now we are seeing the world change so fast. The sad truth is parents are putting their kids in school without knowing that in the next 5-10 years, most of the jobs that their kids are going to get into, we don't even know what that is right now. So how can you plan now? I mean, the only thing you can plan is to make them good human beings. I would say other skills can anyway be built.
So now, what do you think is the responsibility of a school, and what do you think is the responsibility of a family when it comes to a child?
Okay, good question. See, now I'm not here to say that we can change the system, because there are many layers to it. All I am propagating is the idea is to create a new system, or let everybody teach others. So if you have built this podcast, let's say you do around 100 episodes, now you would have in-depth knowledge on what it takes to actually launch a podcast, and you teach that. And of course, now you're teaching other topics which you have learned by being in the personal development world for so many years. So I was doing an analysis or research on this. Only 0.6% of India are teachers.
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay. And this is like the regular teachers. Now, if you're looking at the kind of work that we are doing, like coaches, that's like very minuscule. It's probably like 0.1%. Now, if we can make even 1% of India to teach the way we teach, like by being facilitators, by being a mentor who's an implementer, somebody who's inclusive, who wants to build, like if you're able to even create 1%, that's going to shift the entire game in this country, is what I feel. So what point I'm trying to say is, we can't change the system. We have to change the perspective that people have about where we are, where the world is going. And when you spoke about family, is back to the human to human principles, and what is love. I think now things like love, connection, care, it's so important.
Yes.
Because we are in such a digitally connected world, but people are disconnected.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is something which is the real education, which now the humanity needs.
So now, for example, let's say the current generation is so good with tech and AI and everything. Do you think there is also a possibility that they might also start losing connection with who they are in the process?
Which is why it has to start with who they are.
Okay.
Meaning, if at a young age, let's say right from their initial 3, 4, 5-year-old, I love Montessori system. I love these systems which allows kids to discover themselves, their motor skills, their creative thinking skills, and all that. So if we can help kids to discover themselves at a young age, without them being compared to anybody else, and so the whole system of gradation, if it shifts, what I feel is going to happen is the self-concept of the child is going to go up.
Exactly.
And when the self-concept and the self-love and the self-acceptance, when all of this goes up at a young age, then they will have the courage to do whatever they want.
That's true. So as a father, what do you do to impart these qualities in your children?
So every family, every parent would do it in a different way. But I just look at it starts with me demonstrating the behavior that I want to see in them. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So that's the first thing. Like if I have to tell him to clean it up, I need to clean my stuff up first. So it starts with the parents demonstrating the behavior. If I have to tell him, okay, lesser tech, I need to demonstrate lesser tech myself, which is a little bit hard.
For you.
Okay. But so it so starts there. Then rituals, like, because what you do daily, like Blair says, our mentor, he says, you are what you repeat.
Correct.
Similarly, even in your family, what you repeat actually ends up, compounding over time. So you can't. So when I see somebody say that, my teens don't listen to me, it is not that they don't listen to them. It's the things that they have not done for so many years that is showing up at that moment in time.
Correct. So now, for example, when children throw tantrums, right? How do you handle that? Because now there is so much talk about gentle parenting. You cannot yell at them. You'll have to be extremely nice to them. But for some reason, because we as a generation were raised completely differently, this kind of feels a little weird. But what is your take on gentle parenting?
So each parent is different. Like I'm the soft guy and Mani is you need the charmer and the hammer, both.
Oh, charmer and the hammer.
You need both.
Right.
I mean, to equalize. For some things I step in if the things are a little going off track, and they go to mom, and then sometimes mom bashes them down, and I'm there to support. It is there. It's part of family life. It's the way that we go through it. But when it comes to tantrums, I'll just tell you how I deal with it. Is I just let it flow. I want them to own their power. Like, for example, now there was a point where Dhruv was a lot into gaming, Fortnite and all of that stuff. So when he's like, no, I'm very concerned about this, I said, just let him do it. Okay. And so he did it for a few months, and now he's bored.
Okay. They will let go.
They will let go on their own. Now the thing is, the tantrum comes is when you get to them saying that, okay, if you have to stop right now, and when you get into that mode, of course there's a line that we need. There's a fine line between how far you can take them. But normally when you hurt their self-concept, or when you scar their self-image, that's when the tantrums start to go, because now they have to express their position in the family.
Okay.
If I have to rephrase that, like when you are tarnishing a kid's self-concept, they are now fighting from within to show that they are worthy. And that's what comes in terms of tantrums.
Right.
So when you address that same challenge, this is what's worked for us as a family. I mean, nothing is perfect. We also go through our different situations. But when I let them, okay, you want to do this? Okay, just do it. Okay. Now, or you give them power, saying, okay, you want to play for so long? Okay, now you tell me what time you want to stop. Okay, fine. This is the time. Okay, good. Let me come and check later. So when it comes from them, what I've noticed is, and when they hold on to their word, that also builds over time, and now you don't have to babysit them anymore. So now Dhruva 6, 7, I mean, I feel I don't need to do that anymore. And in fact, he is more, he holds us accountable more for certain things, at home. He's a neat freak. Everything has to be in its place,
Sweet.
That kind of stuff.
And
again, thanks to Montessori.
And also the way he dresses up, the way I've seen him, he's a fashionista already. He's too good with that. So now coming back to the coaching industry, right? So since 2020, when the hit and a lot of coaches came into the market, there was a huge boom. And after that, it dropped. And after that, again, now there's slightly a boom in the coaching industry. But we know the good side of it. We know how people are getting impacted, how lives are getting transformed. What do you think is the dark side of the coaching industry?
There are multiple things that are playing in the coaching industry. Okay. During COVID, when it started, it was still a new thing. So it was like it was like the hottest thing, and everybody got into it. And the cost of ads were very less. If you put in, say, 1 rupee in ads, you can pull out 4 rupees on the other side in terms of the marketing. So many people made quick money during that phase. And then now we are at a time when it comes to marketing, it's not like before. Now you put in 1 rupee, you'll probably only recover that much, or even you may even lose some on the front end. So what's happened is, when it started, everybody who got into the bandwagon made something. And the ones who are sustaining now are the ones who have really built good products, who have built good customer experiences, who understand their customers on a deeper level, and who are not like these get rich fast kind of folks. Okay. So now if you see the dark side of the coaching industry, which nobody speaks about, is those who are not in continuous learning and growth, they experience all kinds of burnouts.
Okay.
For example, they get into loneliness. They're just sitting in front of their laptop. They don't have anybody who are not, having an ecosystem. They're just lone wolves doing this, and they begin to get into self-doubt. They get into because what was working a year, 2 years back, now the dynamics have changed, and now they begin to question themselves, like, am I even good enough? And I've seen this because I work one-to-one with many coaches. Even at the highest level, people have done even 5, 6, 10 crores also. Some of them are restarting right now. They're back to the drawing board and they're rebuilding themselves because of the market changes. It also, the niche also matters. Like some people who started off, now that responsiveness in their topic is not there right now as how it used to be 3-4 years ago. So they have to continuously reinvent themselves. So those who don't reinvent themselves are also, they stagnate and they go downwards. And then there's the other dark side of it is competition. Like those who, I would not say there are people like that in ILH, because I'm always driving in abundance and being more collaboration. But you have another school of marketers who are very, I would say, transactional, who bash down others so that they want to show that they're good by showing that somebody else is bad. And usually that comes from a space of you need to go back to their backstory. They would have a backstory to demonstrate that behavior at this point of time. True. So the other side to it is many coaches are getting impatient, like, because they are not having that larger vision or the abundance mindset. They're looking at this as a market share game. And okay, I need to be the first mover, or I need to like capitalize this market and get the sale. Some of them, they make good money also. But there is some hollowness in that success. There's hollowness in success. And I know, Dr. Monica Singh, I've been working with her for a few years. I invited her to our quantum group, our top level, and we did a process, and she was able to perceive that there are many of them, even at the top level, who are having hollow success. And that hollow success comes because there's an imbalance in other areas of their life. For example, they may be making a lot of money, but maybe their relationships are not good. They may be making a lot of money, but their health is not good. And they're running their business at the cost of the other stuff because they are driving numbers. And when there is an imbalance in any of these areas, that creates a vacuum. And this is what's happening in the industry. Many of them who are not giving equal importance to their health and home, and they're burning the bridges and having stuff that's not making them feel good about themselves in the relationships. It shows in their business, and even though they may make money, but it affects them internally. And it's a show. They're in a show now that they can't get out of.
Right. So in the last few days, this entire concept of work-life balance has been going around everywhere. People making fun of certain people and people trying to bash certain people. So Nitin and I were sitting down and having a conversation to actually understand what work-life balance means to us. Truly speaking, the concept of work-life balance has evolved with time. What I used to consider as work-life balance at one point of time is not the same anymore. Today, I'm able to sit and work for 15, 16 hours. Not that I'm advocating anybody to work so many hours, but just the joy of doing the work. The process itself brings you so much joy. So there is no question at the back of my head trying to analyze, okay, is there work-life balance in my life? Because I'm in a state of flow. But for me to expect the same thing in me 5 years down the line, I don't know if I would still do the things that I'm doing right now. So as a person, as an individual, I understand I have more stakes in the company. So for me to expect myself to work 15, 16 hours when I need to, it's very fair. But for me to expect my team members to put in the same kind of effort is not fair, right? That is number one. Second thing, so much has evolved in life in the last 5 years, and I don't know where this is going to go in the next 5 years, how I'm going to be. So now, putting all of this together, how was your work-life balance previously, and how do you balance life right now?
I don't believe in the balance concept, because it is living by your highest values. As you see, we keep evolving. So my highest values, again, thanks to Dr. DeMartini, the concept. So I did the DeMartini value determination test. I do it every 6 months.
Yes.
And it has not changed so much. It's always been community first. Like for me, I don't look at work as work. And I'm glad and thankful that, my partner, Vanita, she understands the work that I do. And so when I have to work, I just go full on, like you in your case, because it's not work.
Yes.
It is, there's a higher purpose to it and a mission to it, but not at the cost of not being there for the family events and the school events, and and also health. That's why I like to do that panchakarma once in a year. I want to take care of the health, because if this is not working, then everything, there's no point of doing anything. Yes. So more than the word balance, for me, it's like, maybe I want to use the word harmony, or I want to use the word, it's all in bursts. So when I'm in that zone, I just go into burst mode. Like I do a lot, and then I unplug for some time. So when it's family, I like, when you go for a vacation, it's just completely cut off from the world, whether it's a family vacation or if it's taking care of health. So the concept of balance only applies to those who are working for someone, but not working for themselves. Because so when it comes to employees, corporate, you have to balance this, everything else. But when you're creating something, I don't think there's a question of balance here. You're just going to create.
You enjoy the process of doing it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So now coming back to the entire money mindset. So when you were in your 20s, I still remember seeing one of your old photos. I think it was an Audi showroom where you and Vanita had visited. So back then, probably the external reality did not show to you what was possible for you 5 years, 10 years down the line. What was your mindset like back then? And how did your mindset change when you hit your first 1 crore?
Beautiful question. So this was, I think, in 2014, 15, around that time, where we were still struggling as a family financially. I was still running the agency. There was more month than there was money in the account. So it was more like we had to really figure out how to complete this month. Okay, it was like that. And it was, we had gotten to personal development around that time, 2014, 2015. I think MMI happened in 2014. And even before that, I was into affiliate marketing. I was following some marketers online, and there was a strong dose of personal development even over there. Like I came in touch with the concept of visualization and all that way back. I think even when the movie Secret was launched, I think 2008 itself, I got introduced to Rhonda Bryan and all the concepts over there. So during that time, the reason we went to that Audi showroom is just to experience the car, how it feels, but nothing was happening. And at that time itself, we used to have our vision boards. And I have, I think back then, I remember one of the days I was watching some video of, I think it was Frank Kern or something like that, on the concept of core influence. He was talking about core influence. And there he gave an exam, he gave an assignment to do, to write about your perfect day. Okay, so what is your perfect day? This was in 2015. I wrote my perfect day. It was a 14-page document. Where I would wake up, what would the house be, what would I do the first. It's just like a normal average day. It's not like this special day. Where I would live, what I would do, first part of the day, second part of the day, third part of the day. Then before you sleep, what are you feeling? Then how would you go to sleep? I actually kept writing. And I can say that I think 90% I'm living that right now.
Yes.
So even though things were not good externally, but there was a lot of inner work happening. And that inner work was happening right from 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, like 5 years of being in that zone. Even though it was a grind, even though challenges were there, but I never quit the personal development. It just kept going, kept happening.
One challenge, what I see with people, before I come back to asking you how did it feel when you made the first 1 crore, the most challenge that I see with people is, because, like, let's say we go on a diet, we cut out sugar, we do all of that, we're able to see tangible results in the weighing scale immediately.
Yeah.
So when you see the results, it's easier for you to put in that effort. But in the personal development growth, when the perspectives are changing, when the mindset is changing, you literally don't see any physical or a tangible change on an immediate basis.
Yes.
So for people to still push through, because I understand what you're talking about, 7-8 years, I saw literally no change in my life, but still go seminar after seminar, read those books, do those processes. I don't know why I did that, because I also tell Nitin, every time I make a lot of notes. So when I made a lot of notes when we moved in after we got married, they're like a bunch of notes. And he asked me, why did you make all of these notes? Today, when I use those notes in my sessions, I sit down to understand. Every time I was writing down a note back then, it was actually preparing me for the today.
Yes.
So now, for people who are going through the grind, like they're stuck in between the grind and they have to move through, what is the message that you have to give to them?
This is what Blair says. Every human has their own gestation period. And of course, when we are in it, we have to stick through it.
Yes.
Just like when your caterpillar is becoming a cocoon to a butterfly, if you prematurely break open that, the butterfly is not going to come out. Similarly, we all go through the gestation period. So during that phase, I think the only thing that kept me going is just coming back and understanding, and all these analogies of bamboo tree and all that stuff. Roots are growing deep. But the tipping point for me was actually getting to work. Before that, I was getting high on knowledge, but low on implementation. Okay, and then the minute it switched, of course, I needed all that deep work for so many years, and I just switched to high on implementation. And this is like brain in the freezer action of what the mentor says. Okay, do this, just do this.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
And those 6 months in 2018 just changed our trajectory massively, like from maybe 70,000 rupees per month to 15 lakh months. In 2018, it was. I still remember, like Vani, she was pinching herself. Is this really happening? The money in the bank account and all that. More month than money to more money than month. That was. And we were able to pay off our loans and all the EMIs and all the stuff that was happening, and all that pressure that had built for so many years. It was a relief. But when you ask, how is that feeling at that? In the beginning, the feeling is like, wow, it's happening. But then after that, now how do I sustain it? And to sustain it, relentless service. Like, okay, whatever money is happening, forget about it. But just hit the accelerator on serving more, just giving more, and not focusing on. I mean, I look at the numbers, I look at the dashboards, but I want to look at what I can do right now to continue this, the momentum of me learning and me adding more value every single day. Yeah.
That's so beautiful when you spoke about the concept of taking action, because I believe in this idea of being delusional. That is, don't have practical goals, have delusional goals. When I say this, I tell people, understand what I'm trying to say, because when you're delusional, you also have to put an equal amount of action. It is not just about visualizing and sitting here and expecting for the world to change around you. Because since I remember the event that you're talking about in 2014, because I was in the same hall of the event. And for me, when I met a few participants there, in my head, I was like, these guys have already read so many books. They've already attended so many courses. It's so amazing. I mean, they get to be in this journey. But a couple of them, I met them like a few months back to just see that they're still the same people. It's not coming from a space of judgment. It is not coming from a space of ego. It's only coming from a space of introspection to try and understand these guys have been in the personal development space for a really long time. But still things don't change. What do you think is that missing piece for them?
Yeah, even I've seen Train the Trainer itself, there are more than 2,000 people have gone through it. And you can only count the number of trainers who are really on the, I would say, the cutting edge of applying that knowledge. When I analyze it, I think it boils down to ego.
Yeah, okay.
And not actually innovating through this journey. I'll unpack both. So ego is, yes, I've been through so many trainings, I've been through so many certifications, I know this, but it is not translated into something that the market values. Okay, so I have all these credentials, but it's like ocean water. There's so much of water, but nobody can drink it.
Wow, okay.
So these people are stuck. They have consumed so many seminars, but where they are not able to translate that into something valuable for others.
Okay.
And I feel even this comes back to their programming and their upbringing of the schooling system. So in school, more retention, more knowledge, more books, that means you're an intelligent student.
Yeah.
Okay, so they get stuck in the intelligent zone and not in that intelligence translating into application and service for others. I feel there's a gap over there, because if they really would have applied that and helped another person win, that exchange in value would have shown in their bank account.
So true.
Okay.
So true.
So when I say ego, I mean is they would have probably gone into the zone of, let me become more intelligent rather than let me serve others.
Okay.
Now, the second point is innovation. See, all these personal development concepts are evergreen, coming down from Andrew Carnegie to Napoleon Hill, all the way down. Jack Canfield, Tony Robbins. We have the whole lineage.
Yes.
We can go down to this lineage. There's a 7-generation lineage going back. I do not know. I think it was before Andrew Carnegie. Okay. So the personal development world has been around for a long time. In the time and day that we have to innovate. Like, we need to really, like, even what you're doing in your Instagram is you're basically taking all the stuff you've learned, but you're repackaging it and innovating it and presenting it, which is making the current folks relate with it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So that also matters. Even for me, I think the tipping point for me in 2018 was, yes, I learned from so many different places, Western marketers, people from I've attended so many programs, but I adapted it for India. I made it more Indianized, but now it is ready for the globe, the whole system. So the people who have stuck, they have not really applied that knowledge to a point where they can make it ready for somebody to consume. So let's say if somebody has done NLP or for so many certifications, NLPs. Okay, NLP as a concept is, it's a powerful principle. Now, if somebody has actually worked with many people, they would have found unique ways to use the same thing.
Yes.
And innovated on their own.
Yes, to create the transformation.
Like, even though Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, the way The Secret was written was different. The way the Success Principles was written was very different. Jack Canfield added his approach of systemized and the step-by-step way. So I think these are the two factors. What I can see is the ego and lack of innovation that keeps people just high on knowledge.
Right. And also when it comes to sales, right? Like, when you have a great service, this is something I learned from DeMartini, and it's been a game changer with respect to how I view myself and how I view sales. So generally, most of the people that I've met have always spoken about, I feel very uncomfortable to sell. So I think DeMartini beautifully speaks about the fair energy exchange.
Yes.
When you are giving value to somebody and you're overcharging them, you're going to feel guilty in the process. But when you're giving value to people and you're undercharging, you're going to get burnt out in the process. So when you're adding value to somebody's life and you're charging optimally for that, then you feel so much more motivated to do even more for the person. So that kind of broke my own barrier about selling and sales. And now I don't even feel anything about sales, because I believe it's 12 to 13 years of hard work and my experience coming together. And this is how your life is going to change. And I have proof of concept for that. But when a lot of people have this shame around sales, how did you deal with it in the initial days?
It's awesome. In fact, if I have to add the third point, it is sales.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks you for bringing that up. Because what happens in personal development, we learn so much.
Yes.
We attend all these different programs. But when it comes to asking for money, there's a challenge there, because now they feel that, all the programming, like salespeople are sleazy, or asking for money is bad, or people will automatically buy from me, and they think that, but selling is a system, it's a process.
Yes.
So for me, there was a phrase that I learned from, I do not know, I was just reading some books. It really shifted my thought about sales.
Okay.
People who pay attention.
Wow. Okay.
People who pay attention take action.
Okay.
People who take action get results. So it's my moral responsibility to make people pay. It is for their good.
It's amazing. And which is so true.
Yeah.
The same course, what you and I do, if we gave it for free, so many people...
They won't value it.
Yeah, they won't value it.
So this is Russell Brunson. I learned this from Russell Brunson.
Okay.
So when I was going through his courses, I think 2018, this phrase went so deep. And then thanks to Blair, who brought in selling equals service, so that
Yes.
Just close the loop. So now when I go to sell, or even I'm sure even you're experiencing that, it's like, this is for your good. I believe in my product is going to change your life.
Exactly.
So I'm here to
And
sell.
it actually comes with that level of
Conviction.
because you truly know with this product the life is going to change.
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm unapologetic about sales. I love it because, and see, once when I say unapologetic, sometimes we come from a space where we feel that when somebody gives me money, I'm obligated to them.
Right.
But that's not the case. It's more like, when you are giving me money, you are going to win. Okay, my product is going to serve you at the highest level.
Wow. Okay.
So that shift also, I'm not obligated to you. It's a fair exchange that is happening. Okay, and for me, the deeper thing is because I was brought up in a spiritual environment. This whole seva bhav, serve more, do volunteering service, all of that was there. And also the thing about, should you ask people for money, for knowledge, sometimes that also some spiritual distortions can come when it comes to this. But for me, once I saw other people get results because of their investment in this, in coming to my programs, then it became clearer and clearer over time. So yeah,
wow.
Your ability to sell,
right,
is going to be a game changer.
That perspective shift in itself, I'm not obligated because you pay, but because you pay, your life is going to change.
Yes,
changes the entire energy of how
shifts.
It is viewed. It is crazy. And this is a question I get asked so many times, and I've answered this, but I would love to know your perspective about it. What is your take on destiny and free will?
If you are born as a male or a female in a particular family, that's destiny. I mean, you can't change that.
Yes.
Because that's your karma, or whatever you have done in the previous life to have come over here. But what you do here is going to determine your next. So it's like when you get into a plane, the plane is going to a particular destination. Okay. Now inside the plane, you can do whatever you want. Okay. So we have our life path, which has been designed, or we've been given this body. So let's say in the plane, I'm just sleeping, I'm not doing anything, and then I land, I go to the destination, and then I go out. But if I'd use the same time to maybe build a few networks, maybe 5-6 people, and that could open up new opportunities in the future after I reach the destination. That's how I look at free will. So free will is it's what we do in the moment that creates our new karma. And of course, there are two kinds of karma. If you go deep into it, there's a prarabdha, and there's one more. There's some karmas which you can't change. So let's say if somebody has killed somebody in the past life, they have to face the music. They can't heal it away. Okay, they have to face the music. And there are some which through your activities and through by you surrendering to the Lord, or whatever path you follow, you can reduce the effects of your reactions.
Absolutely. That is why they say this phrase: when you live your dharmic life, your karmic life is taken care of. It's
taken care of. Yeah. And again, there are if we go deeper into this, there are three. You have so karma, according to me, is like a credit card. There's one side of karma which is going to degrade your lifestyle. So let's say some people are killing others, or that there's something that is going to pull you down in the next. Okay. Then on the other side, you have the punya karmas, which is you gain all these positive credits, and you gain more balance in your credit card. And then of course, maybe in the next life you will be born in some heavenly planet, but still there's going to be a point where you'll exhaust that credit. And there is another thing which is where your activities are not either positive or negative, where your ego is not in the way, where you're aligned to your dharmic path or the service of the Supreme, whichever path process that you follow, where your karma doesn't exist over there. Okay. So if I have to decode this, it's like if you're living every single day saying that, okay, this body of mine is an instrument for me to carry out my dharmic duties, and I'm just an instrument for me to perform my duties. So you tell me what is your will, and I will follow that. And now the karma is not on me. It's a neutral zone.
Wow. For us to be able to even operate from that kind of a space, the ego needs to dissolve.
Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. I've heard you speak so much about scriptures. I've heard you speak so much about Bhagavad Gita and the learnings and the teachings from there. I want you to help me understand, how has those teachings made you a better human in this lifetime?
So we are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings in a human journey, and going through that journey, and we are experiencing that. So for me, this thirst or quest of going into spirituality happened just after my music days. Like when I say 20, when I was 23, 24 years old, partying, doing all of that stuff, and it came back to a moment where what I was learning when I was 10, 11 years old, my parents used to read Krishna book or read the Gita, and I used to facilitate small kids groups back then, but it was more like an activity. I was not really into it. It was just fine, like reading some storybooks. But then when I was 23, 24 years old, when I was transitioning, that's where I felt hollow, and I wanted to go deeper into spirituality, after all that partying, that zone. So when I started that quest, this is from my side, not my parents telling me to do it. It's from me. I came to understand that the Bhagavad Gita only covers, at a broad perspective, only 5 things.
Okay.
Number 1 is who's God. 2 is who's the soul, like who am I? And 3 is what is this nature, material nature. 4 is what is time. And number 5 is what is karma.
Okay.
And activities. And if you take any verse of the Gita, it will fall under one of these 5 categories. Okay. So during those 2-3 years, I went deep into actually studying it like a scholar. When a scholar means I would read every verse, word for word meaning, the purport, how I can apply it. Then I started a study group.
Okay.
I ran the study group for maybe 2.5-3 years, where every verse we read, we would meet once in a week for 2 hours. It was a youth group, around 7-8 of us boys. It was a boys group. We would read every verse and we would debate on it. Wow. Like contradictory views, and we would actually discuss. And at the end of the debate, we would come to a conclusion that, okay, this is what it is. We came from the first chapter until the 11th chapter. I can tell you that has been the best years of my spiritual foundation. Then, of course, after that, been plugging into a lot of lectures and many attending many programs of my spiritual master. But then there are 2 levels to this. So one is the quest level, where I went in the first phase of the thirst to know more. And then it came to a point later on where I've gathered so much of data now. How can I apply this in my life? And then as I was applying it, I could see some profound changes and shifts in the way I would look at things, the perspective. My decisions were very different. When I say decisions, I always look at it from, is it moral? Is it coming from a spiritual plane of understanding, or is it coming from my own ego or and stuff like that? So I took initiation when I was 20, I think I was 24 or 25 years old. So initiation is where I officially surrendered to my spiritual master in front of a fire, and I took an oath that I will follow these principles for my life, for the rest of my life. And to even be initiated into that school of spiritual practice, I needed to go through a lot. So there was a philosophical checklist. There was a actual sadhana I need to have followed for so many years of doing japa and chanting. And there was a test that was done. And there was also a moment where I had to go to my spiritual master, and he asked me, like, why do you choose me as your master? Wow. I had to write an essay. And then after him reading my essay, then only he accepted me as a student. And it was a 3-year journey for me. And I can tell you that those moments I will never forget. And even Mavani is also in the same, we went through the same journey. So back to spirituality is just like how there are different schools, different colleges, each have their own curriculum, have their own masters and teachers. The sampradaya in which I've been initiated it goes back all the way to Lord Krishna. There's a lineage. There are 34 masters. So the knowledge is pure. It is descending. And even when it comes to knowledge, there are 3 ways to acquire knowledge. One way is through sensory perception, like what you see is what you believe. And the problem with this is that our senses are imperfect.
Yes.
Okay, so there is a limitation to that. The second form of acquiring knowledge is through experimentation and hypothesis. Like scientists who go into that zone, and sometimes it may take many years to prove that something is there. And what I've come to understand is, especially in concepts of spirituality, descending knowledge is the best. That means when somebody has lived that message and they're giving it to you, you just need to accept it. It's like when a mother tells you that here's your father, are you going to do a DNA test? You don't need to do it. So when it comes from a pure source, when you accept it, then you'll realize it. And so for me, that's how I was also, as I said before, I've been a rebel. I used to question everything.
Yeah.
And then in the beginning phase was I was questioning all these things. Then after a point when I started to accept some of these principles, then especially when it comes to spirituality, right, everything started to fall into place.
Yeah. So do you also believe in the fact that for you to be able to understand such deeper spiritual concepts in this lifetime, your soul has probably gone through multiple lifetimes doing all of this for you to get to this point?
It's yes and no. Sometimes your soul would have gone through many lifetimes, and they say you're an old soul born, and you're just continuing the journey. So that's a yes. But the other side is when a soul has experienced another pure soul in this world, even the causeless mercy or the interaction of that soul can cause that upgradation of even a so-called smaller soul or to go up really fast.
Oh, wow. Okay. So when you come in contact with a soul who's already a realized soul,
yes,
it is okay if your soul has not been through the process of evolution to get to where it is, but just the grace and the mercy of that soul will evolve you.
It evolves. So there is a verse in the scripture. I don't remember that, but it says even a moment's association with a pure soul can transform the other soul.
Does the association have to mean like physically we're meeting the soul, or just being able to connect with?
Even connection, but since we are in physical bodies, it's more like when you take some filings of iron and put it into fire, it takes on the qualities of fire.
Correct.
Similarly, we may be like iron filings, but even if you come in proximity to that, to pure souls, you just take on that. It just rubs off onto you.
Wow. So for us to even be able to attract an experience of having to encounter that kind of an evolved soul, it has to be karmic, right?
It can also be the purpose of that evolved soul to upgrade to upgrade more souls on this planet. So they just show up, and whoever is there, they get touched. So I mean, there's no way to analyze this,
right.
But from what I've read and what I've heard is by the causeless mercy, there is a I think a verse that by the causeless mercy of the spiritual master, one can. My spiritual master always quotes this. He says, the verse goes like this. It says, Mukham karoti vachalam. That means even a dumb person can become an eloquent speaker. Pangum langayate girim. That means even a crippled person can climb mountains. Okay. Yat kripa tamaham mande Shri Gurum Dinatana. By the mercy of your spiritual master, one can do all of this.
This is mind-blowing, since I really don't know how many people actually know this side of you. I mean, we've always had this question, and we always talk about this. When you walk, we feel like you're floating in air. I mean, it is like a joke that we all do. We say, when Siddh walks, it's probably because of the level of detachment you probably have with the things that don't truly matter, and your focused vision on what kind of value that you want to add in this world and who you want to become in the process. So now, going slightly deeper into this, let's strip away everything. You being the digital coach, you being the parent, you being the entrepreneur and everything. Who are you on the inside?
I'm a fun-loving being. Okay. I'm just a guy having fun. That's it. I don't think too much about it, actually. Yeah. I just love what I do, and I love people. That's it.
That's amazing, because I still remember, I think it was Blair or Robert who spoke about this. We all are a part of a jigsaw puzzle. And when we live our life's purpose, we're going to fill that small missing piece in other people's jigsaw puzzle. And when we don't live our life's purpose, we're not just robbing away the opportunity of living an amazing life, we're equally robbing away the opportunity of other people to live an amazing life.
Yes.
So for all the entrepreneurs out there, the journey is not easy. It is fulfilling, but it is still not easy.
Absolutely.
Some people are on the verge of giving up. They feel like, oh, this is just too hard for me. They're on the verge of giving up. What is your message for them?
It's your reason why you want to do it in the first place. It comes back to that. Even I've watched many of the Steve Jobs videos. It's like, it's really hard to be an entrepreneur. Unless you really love it, you won't be able to pull through those moments where you'll question yourself. So if you ask me, it boils down to how deep do you love the work you do, and what is your reason why you want to do it. And Blair always says, even if you don't know what the reason is, if you don't know what your purpose is, when you throw yourself in the service of others, you'll automatically be following your purpose, whether you know it or not.
Wow. So when you are of service to other people,
Yeah.
the universe is of service to you.
Yeah, because even in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a mention that just like how sweetness is the innate quality of sugar, like if you remove sweetness, there is no sugar. Service is the quality of the soul.
Wow. Okay.
And because we are always serving somebody, whether either serving our family or a boss or our partner, we are serving somebody or the other. It's the innate nature of the soul. So when you serve your fellow beings and a creator, like if you align yourself in that space, it's like pouring water in the root of the plant. You don't have to put water on the leaf. You just pour it in the root and everything goes. That's the magic. So if entrepreneurs are struggling, that means they are too much stuck with themselves. Like let them just go in service and everything will start to flow.
Do you still sometimes deal with self-doubt or insecurities?
It's nature, it's human nature. And we're always pushing the boundaries. Setbacks will happen. And especially in business and the fast changing times, it's going to be there. Yeah. Self-doubt, the way I would look at it is, how can I upskill myself? So I don't put myself down. I'm very cautious about not getting into the zone of guilt and in that space, or self-doubt or lack of self-love or low self-worth. I'm very cautious about not beating myself down. I mean, that's everything is, the paradigm has shifted right now.
Right.
But pushing the boundaries, like there will be moments where, okay, is this month going to be better than the previous month? Okay, and there will be setbacks, like peaks and valleys. So in the down months, I'm always analyzing, okay, what can we do better and how we can move forward. So my ability to deal with those setbacks have been more from a perspective of what can I improve, rather than what did I do wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So on an ideal day, what would your day look like, morning till evening?
Love the question and I love answering it. Okay. So first off, many of you think, okay, I'm a spiritual guy, so I'll get up at 4 a.m. and do all my meditation and all that. It does not happen all the time. Okay?
Right.
I'm very flexible on my day practices. I first thing is I need my 8 hours of sleep.
Good.
Okay. My number one priority is my energy. Okay. So if I have a long night, let's say if I do like a session till say 11, 12, sometimes it goes late also. I'll get up late. I get up at sometimes 8, 9 also, depending, but I want my full 8 hours of sleep, because only then I can do. So having said that, I start all my meetings after 10, 11. So my first meeting, in fact, will start at 11. Normally, I like to do all my one-to-ones by 1. So I probably do 1 or 2 one-to-ones with my premium customers, and then where I go deep into their business, analyze how things are. Then have my lunch, my normal, I like South Indian rasam or porchukut stuff. I'm not a chapati guy.
I know. Every time I meet you, the only thing you're eating is either a plain dosa or you're eating dal khichdi when we
dal
meet
khichdi. And as you know, I have only sattvic food.
Yes.
So I'm boring when it comes to food that way. I tell Vani, just give me the same thing every day. I'm happy with it. Okay, so have my lunch, and normally after lunch I do a lot of thinking, planning, any other one-to-ones I do. But all my calls are usually in the evenings. So I like to structure my week as a 4-day work week. That means I know if you ask me next year on this date, what am I going to do? I can give you an answer, because it's all thematic, my days. So Monday I work with my diamond members. Tuesday I do hackathons. Wednesday I keep it free. Nothing on the calendar. Okay, on Wednesdays. Okay. Because that's the day I like to recreate. I just go for a drive, go to Mahabalipuram on my own. Sometimes staycation. That means I'll just book a hotel. I'll say, Vani, kids, bye. I'm just coming back after 24 hours. just go spend time with
It's
myself.
spontaneous.
Spontaneous whenever I feel like.
Okay.
So because when I take a step out from the office, from home office, I'm able to think more. Then Thursday I do inner circle. Friday I have my quantum call. Saturday, Sunday with Success Gyan. So everything is I've structured it into a 4-day work week like that. Evening I like to go for a walk, or I go to the beach, or Vani and I, we go for a drive. Maybe if not every day, at least once every 2 days, I need to connect with her. And it's a 1-hour drive. We go right through, our Besanagar. We have our route, a
nice.
regular route.
Nice.
But in that 1 hour, a lot we are able to exchange ideas, and she's my pillar of strength and support.
Yes.
So I keep sharing what I'm working on. She shares what she's working on, and that connection is important. Because sometimes at home with 3 kids, so much going on, I'm not able to connect with her at home.
Right.
I have to take her out. And even with the boys, I do that. Just Rishabh and I, 1-to-1, we go for a drive. Or Dhruva and I, 1-to-1, we go for a drive. Because sometimes when you go as a family, it's different.
Right.
We also do that. But I make sure that with each of my boys, I want that individual connection with them.
And you guys play, right?
Yeah,
you
we
play
game.
a lot.
That's a different thing altogether.
Right.
If we start off a game, it goes on for 3-4 months to finish.
Oh my God.
So
and
it's
3
like
of you play together?
We play together.
Nice.
Now the Rishabh and Dhruva are at that stage where they are playing together. So
Okay.
I'm watching now. Okay, but with Rishabh, played with him. And in between, of course, I start my day with spirituality. We have shaligrams at home. So I do my pujas at home. We have daily, I do Abhishek at home. And, so it's a daily practice, because we've been, given...
That should take good 30-40 minutes?
Around 30 to 40 minutes every single day. So both Vani and I, as much as possible, we try to do together. Some days when we miss, my mother-in-law is there to help. Yes. But the strong spiritual dose, starting... If you come to my home in the morning, it'll be like a temple only. Like,
that's beautiful.
Incense everywhere, and, it's like that. And it's
How
a beautiful
the boys
stuff.
liking it? Like, have they gotten accustomed to the same spiritual practices?
We don't push them on any of this stuff. They're observing what we are doing. And I know at some point of time, like now Rishabh is at a stage where now I'm teaching him the Gita principles. I have an abridged version of the Gita where the concepts are there, and we just read a page, and I ask him to ask me questions, and I ask him questions, and now he gives his own view.
Wow.
So we've been doing that here. So when it comes to spirituality, I wanted to evolve where they're seeing us, not looking at it as just ritual, but more like understanding the meaning why we are doing it. So many people think about children as an obligation, all the stuff. And if anybody is watching this podcast, I just want to encourage everybody to, bring forth good souls on this planet.
How has becoming a father changed you?
I understood what is love. Like, we use the word love, but I understood what is love, being a father. And I think the purest form of love in this world is mother's love for the child. It can't get purer than that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So the intention of the podcast, when we're sitting down and brainstorming as to what we will talk about, though we know you as a great entrepreneur, as a great contributor, we always knew that this podcast is going to go down in a line where it is going to open up a lot inside of us when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to trying to understand more about ourselves. I just can't thank you enough for spending time with us and doing what you're doing. And thank you for helping me become who I am today when it comes to being a coach, because I derive a lot of my values of being a coach from you. When I still remember in one of your events, when somebody on the stage went up there and said, "My life changed because of Sid. Sid, you are God to me." I saw you immediately come back, take that mic from them and said, "No, it's because of you that your life changed." That inspired me on such a deeper level for me to understand that I'm only a medium here who's trying to do God's work. And the better I do God's work, God is going to give me more people to work with, as a result of which my life is getting taken care of.
Yeah.
So I don't take the credit for it. I understand I've been chosen as a medium. I mean, I learned that from you and Blair, and I will forever be grateful for you, for being the way you are, and for Blair. And thank you so much for doing this.
Gayathri, I'm really proud of your journey. I've seen you in, working with Success Gyan, in the amount of hours you've put in over there. And then I was there in the moment you transformed and trained the trainer. And I won't forget that moment. There was some release that you had, which is divine.
Yes.
And after that, when you took on your real journey that you have been preparing for so many years,
Yes.
It's amazing. And you're just getting started. I just want to say congratulations on this podcast.
Thank you.
Congrats on your journey, and may you touch more lives.
Thank you. It means a lot. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.